G'day, folks. This is Screen Watching. My name's Dan, joined here by Simon. Simon, how Australian was that intro? I said g'day like a regular old Australian, a dinky die, true blue Australian.
G'day, mate. Well, funny you should say that. I'm in Melbourne for my science fiction film festival, and last night, with a couple of hours to spare, we turned on the hotel television. What did I see for the first time? Kangaroo Jack.
Ooh.
That incredibly funny. All I'd heard was horrible things. And if someone asked you what is the only film to star Michael Shannon and Christopher Walken, suddenly they're in Kangaroo Jack together. I was blown away. Wasn't too bad. Had a bit of a giggle. How are you, Dan?
Sorry, I'm just concerned. Is this now the part where the podcast moves from talking about all things screen, so the things we've been watching on TV and movies, to becoming an intervention? Is that largely where this is going now?
It may have to be. I'm seeking out Kangaroo Jack 2 as we speak. I'm hoping it's on the in-house television.
Yeah, now in furthering Simon's commitment to the sound quality of this podcast, we've decided, sure, last week there may have been a few complaints that Simon's volume wasn't really necessarily high enough. He's like, I've got the volume issue licked, but instead I'm going to introduce a new wrinkle into this and not have a microphone, not have headphones, just do it from a laptop in a hotel room. What could go wrong?
What could possibly go wrong? Who knows how this is going to turn out? To those of you who complained last week you couldn't hear me, I appreciate that. To those of you who complained last week that they could hear me, shut your face.
I'm not going to apologize for that. Simon, this week on the program, we've got a bunch of reviews. We've got maybe the most hotly anticipated movie of 2023, maybe the decade. I don't think it's unfair to say that. So look, on my docker, I'm going to be talking about the ABC, US ABC sitcom called Not Dead Yet, which just debuted in Australia on Disney Plus in the last week. I'm also going to look at some recent revival series. So in Australia, we've got the music video, it's a music game show called Rockwiz. That's back for season 15 on a brand new network after a hiatus of, I'm going to say 7 years. And then also we've got the return of Party Down, which is back for a third season after a hiatus of, let's say, a decade.
Yes, long time between drinks for those boys and girls. I'll be looking at Aftersun, which is an Oscar contender for leading man Paul Mescal, and the film to which you refer, a movie that really does sort of look at the complexity of the human existence in all its forms. Cocaine Bear will be part of my review this week. So it's a fairly hefty program, my friend.
Look, there's a lot going on. Let's not dilly-dally. Let's get right in.
Do we have a sting?
Yeah, maybe. Simon Foster. Okay, look, on this, so let's get people holding out for Cocaine Bear. We don't want to give them too much, steak before sizzle. So let's instead go to, look, I mentioned this is a new show that's appeared on the Disney Plus platform here in Australia. It's called Not Dead Yet. Maybe video will play? Who can say?
Stretch.
So I'm always reminded of the line from The Simpsons about the mule with a spinning wheel, because all I can see is a spinning wheel here, but no donkey.
No
I don't know what to think of this. Nothing's playing. Nothing's playing. Let's just stop that. It's just terrible. Because, of course, this is a podcast with no edits, so whatever. Simon Foster, let me tell you about Not Dead Yet, which is, first of all, probably my top-level advice on this one is don't watch it. Ooh. I think that's maybe... Is that unfair? Is that enough of a review? Can I just bring it to an end now?
No, we should dig more into this, because one of the great joys of you looking at the running sheet sometime in the days ahead of the podcast is that I get to see what you're going to review. So I actually watched a few episodes of Not Dead Yet, and I may have a counter view. So let's hear your perspective.
Okay, well, I'm interested in your counter view only because it will be completely counter to every other review on the planet for this program. But look, the premise of this series is, first of all, it stars Gina Rodriguez. She stars as Nell Serrano, and I'm reading the blurb here. A broken, newly single, self-described disaster, she works to restart the life and career she left behind 10 years ago when she lands the only job she can, writing obituaries, and she starts getting life advice from an unlikely source. Now, Simon, the overall idea of this one is you got Gina Rodriguez being as charming as she generally is, She's got a group of friends, one reluctantly, and it's about her coming to terms with a life that she's having to rejoin. So she's been away, and she's suddenly finding herself having to integrate into the life that she once had in what seems to be a vibrant newsroom, which seems very fraudulent to me. Like, how does this even exist? But basically, she's got a best friend. Her name's Sam, played by Hannah Simone. People would know her from New Girl. And then you've also got Lauren Ash, who people would know from Superstore, playing Lexi. Lexi is the daughter of the owner of the publication they work for. She's incredibly wealthy, and she's now there in like a managerial role, and nobody cares for her. Basically, what I find with this program is that it's the exact same sort of generic TV program that seems to appear on a schedule every year. The gimmick for this one is that she writes obituaries, and she keeps on getting life advice from the people whose obituary she's writing. I mean, it's a shtick that can only really last so long. What the strength of this one needs to be is in the core protagonists. You've got Gina Rodriguez, who I said is very charming. You got Hannah Simone from New Girl. I think Hannah Simone is an absolute star. The fact that she hasn't had a greater success post New Girl is a crying shame to me. She was supposed to be starring in a Greatest American Hero remake, but that didn't seem to go past pilot stage, which is really unfortunate because ultimately Hannah Simone should be the lead of this program, and maybe not Gina Rodriguez. As charming as she is, I just think Hannah Simone's, she's top level. Gina Rodriguez, she's fine. Rodriguez will be in another sitcom next year. I've got no concern that she'll bounce from one mediocre thing to the next. And then Lauren Ash, who was a bit of a breakout in Superstore, she just plays such an unlikable character here. I just couldn't really latch into anything with her. The problem with Lauren Ash is that she plays things very big and broad consistently, and she suddenly nails the brief for this one, but I don't know, it's just not really a character I want to spend a huge amount of time with. And that's the thing with this show. It needs to be moving in the direction of becoming a hangout comedy, and you just don't want to hang out with them. Like, even the word comedy seems a little bit sort of misapplied to the show. It's just the same sort of generic show that crops up on a schedule every year. People will notice that it's there. It'll get cancelled. There'll be a few people online going, oh my God, it's such a tragedy. But ultimately, no one will care. Simon Foster, you've got a differing viewpoint. You seem to like this program for whatever reason.
Well, I would say that all your complaints certainly apply to the first episode. I found it being a very bog standard setup of a sitcom premise.
Well, it's a premise pilot.
It's a premise pilot, yeah. And I could see I had issues with Gina Rodriguez, who just seemed to be so hammy and playing to the back row with her version of the character. I got concerned that Martin Mull, as the first of the dead people who turns up, was going to be the ongoing character, not having seen or read anything about this sitcom going into it. And I found that was very laboured in the comedy. I also sensed that there was quite a big gap between that pilot episode and the next couple of episodes that I watched, because some of the really sort of boisterous comedy was toned back a bit in episodes 2 and 3. Some of the issues she had with the dead people became a little bit more affecting, and maybe the writing was a little bit better in those second and third episodes. And by the time I sort of came around to the end of the third episode, I was thinking, all those things you say are true. It's not a particularly marvelous bit of television, but there is a likability. You're absolutely right about Hannah Simone. She's a star in the making, and I hope we haven't passed her sort of in the spotlight hot moment yet, because I think she's going to be a major television presence, at least on television, hopefully in films as well.
Well, I should say, Simon, she has been a major TV presence for, I don't know, about like 10 odd years now. Like, she was on New Girl for, was that 7 or 9 seasons? Went for a while.
And she's not a stranger. Broke out as a star for that. I would have thought that just playing the support character, the Judy Greer character, as I like to call it, is sort of beyond her at this stage. I would have liked, like as you say, I would have liked to seen her in the Gina Rodriguez role. Yes, simple, basic television. Don't know where it's going to take its premise with any great degree of skill, but I don't know. I just found it I did find it the hangout comedy. I thought it was going to. I think they hope it's going to be for some people.
So last week, before Simon and I started recording the podcast, we had an extended conversation that went for about 25 minutes about our toast preferences. Simon was aghast at the fact that I enjoy a bit of toast with just a bit of margarine on it. I usually do 2 slices, one with margarine, one with like a tasty sort of a spread. But anyway, Simon just could not
Crazy.
understand why I'd enjoy just margarine on toast. To me, this program we're talking about, Not Dead Yet, this is margarine on toast.
But you like margarine on toast.
Yeah,
I don't
but
get your analogy.
I think it's just I don't care for this bread.
All right, okay. So it's called Not Dead Yet, which is the name of. Why is it called Not Dead Yet?
Good
Because
question.
that's not the name of the obituary, is it? Yeah, that's a strange title.
I mean,
Bit of a
it'd make
downbeat
sense
title
if
for
it
very
was some
upbeat.
sort of a metaphor for her sort of reaching a point in her life where she feels as though she's on the cusp. But ultimately, Not Dead Yet makes sense if she's a woman who's maybe sort of close to retirement and she's not quite dead yet because she hasn't quite retired or something. You could do something with that. It makes no sense in the context of who this character is.
Yeah, very true. All right, so it's called Not Dead Yet. It's on Disney Plus here in Australia, Hulu around the world. I'm going to have a look at Aftersun. Keep selling the sizzle on Cocaine Bear. Aftersun is the. You there? Hello? Aftersun is
Yeah,
the
I'm here.
new film
Simon,
starring
let,
Paul
us
Mescal. Yeah.
Simon, can we play a clip? Is that too much?
Yeah. Oh, let's give it a shot. Yeah, sorry, you've dropped off of your video there, so I can't see what you're doing. But yeah, let's play a clip.
I love you.
Love you.
Why don't you go over and introduce yourself?
Dad, they're like kids. Why don't you go over and introduce yourself?
Sophie, they're like old.
Okay, Simon, that's enough of that. That's the sort of trailer that I think works really well when you're sitting at Palace Cinemas with your popcorn without any butter on it and your wine in your other hand. I'm not sure it'll play so well when you're sitting on your couch at home.
I'm keen to see what people make of Aftersun because it's a very unique movie starring Paul Mescal as you saw there in the clip, the very young father of Frankie Corio, the wonderful young Scottish actress who plays her daughter. It is set back in the 90s. They are on what turns out to be their last holiday together. He separated from her mother, and they are enjoying some time in the sun before the burdens of life take over her as a young woman growing into her teenage years, and him as a father dealing with a lot of very sort of tough personal issues as well. What we soon come to realize is this is a film told almost entirely in flashback. Those scenes are actually happening in the memories of a young woman who's having a lot of trouble, which is the daughter all growing up, and we get a fleeting glimpse of him as an older man and his life in absolute turmoil. So this is a heartbreaking, very melancholy bit of British filmmaking, told in a style that earned the young director Charlotte Wells the Best New Talent BAFTA award this year, just a week or so ago. Take your tissues. This is a movie that absolutely creeps up on you, told in a very naturalistic, neo-realism, I think is the term that some of the snotty film critics use to describe this. It's a completely understand that Mescal got an Oscar nomination for this. Don't understand why the young actress Frankie Corio did not also share in the award season spoils, because she's just as incredible playing opposite him and totally believable as a young woman who starts to realize that she's probably a bit more mature and a bit smarter than her dad. That clip you saw there where he says, go and play with the kids, and she says, why don't you go and play? Why don't you go over there? You sort of realize she's also saying, you go and play with the kids because that's about your level. So there's a lot of insight, a lot of powerful drama, a lot of gentle drama in this as well. Check out Aftersun at select cinemas around town.
Okay, Simon, I'm going to start by playing a little clip of Rockwiz, and then we'll play a clip from Party Down, and then move into talking about both at once. Like, not both at once. Like, it's not going to be like me laying a voice over the top of it. Let's play some clips.
Love music, trivia, and comedy? Well, new Rockwiz will blow your amp.
The award-winning Australian...
Okay, that's enough of that.
Now it's a Party Down reunion.
Just what everyone's dying for.
Hello, Party Down Catering. Yes, of course we're open for business. I just need your event info, and I will help you get the party started. This is an important event. No personal business on company. Ah, group photo. Okay, get the whole gang.
Weren't we the gang and you were more management?
Now it's a Party Down reunion.
Just what everyone's dying for.
This is a big opportunity. I want high professional service.
This is not how I envisioned my 40s.
Are you okay?
You know, I had some silver.
Okay, Simon. So we're talking TV revivals this week. So we've got the return of Rockwiz, which, as I mentioned in the preamble at the beginning, the last season of that was, I'm going to say about 2015-ish, thereabouts. And then also got Party Down, which I think was, is there a year there that I can quickly bring up? 2010. So it's certainly been over a decade since we've had Party Down, and certainly getting close on, a decade with Rockwiz. But both shows have been revived. Now, Rockwiz, it's a bit easier to get something like that up and running again. It's ostensibly just a game show on television. If people don't know Rockwiz, it's kind of like a less sort of snarky version of Nevermind the Buzzcocks from the UK, if you've ever watched that game show. It's basically very sort of hard, real music nerd trivia, combined with a couple of jokes in there and a few musicians who are participating on each team. So in the very first episode, you've got Jimmy Barnes on one team and another performer whose name I didn't know because I'm too old to pay attention to new music. But it was a young musician who was on there. Anyway, the way that it used to work is that there'd be a integration of music and songs by the original artists, and then they'd do like a duet at the end, and then there'd be an extended amount of trivia. Now, when you saw the little bit of video there with Julia Zamiro, the host of the show, and she was talking about what the show was, she referred to it as music, trivia, comedy, and you'd think that would be the hierarchical nature of what they're really looking to be able to achieve here. I can confirm that the new revamped Rockwiz, which is now only half an hour instead of an hour long, has music, check. It's got comedy, which is certainly elevated all the way through it. But the trivia, Simon, they've truncated the show to being just half an hour. It was 16 minutes into the program and they did the first quiz question. And to me, like, The Rock is important, but the quiz part of it is actually really important as well. And it seemed as though that was the least important part of this revival series. And I don't quite understand what they're doing here. It's very confusing.
That is very confusing because not only it makes no sense in the format of the show, but it was the key sort of draw that made me sit at home and watch this. I mean, I enjoyed the music and I enjoyed the cover songs that they always used to do at the end. That was really cool. But joining in and trying to answer the quiz questions was key to my sort of overall commitment to the original Rock Quiz format. So to have them temper that back, that's not great.
Baffling. So I've only seen the first episode, so maybe it's just like a first episode return, but it very much felt like I don't know what they do with this format to bring that quiz any sooner. So the way that it rolls out is Brian Nankervis, who is still involved in the program on screen, which to me made very little sense considering that his role and Julia Zamiro's role kind of butt up against each other a little bit. And with such a tight format now, like maybe Brian had to step aside, which is a shame because I like Brian Nankervis. So, that'd be unfortunate. But I don't think there's enough room in the show for both of them anymore. Julia comes out, does her little bit of shtick at the beginning, sort of like a monologue opening comment sort of a thing. They then have the guests coming out, like the quiz competition people. They always ask them what their first concert was, and so they keep that part of the show, which that was always a charming way to get to know your contestants, so that's cool. And then they have to guess who the celebrity is that's going to be joining their panel. So you see, the artists come out, each of them perform a song. So you've got 2 songs, you've got opening monologues, you've got conversations about first concerts. And after all that, I don't know how there's really time to get to the quiz any sooner than 16 minutes in, which when you've got an hour-long format like that, that's relaxed and comfortable to get to. But in this half hour, like, it's too much.
Wow. That is challenging to me. I don't know. And I mean, I was also concerned by the fact that
I was going to say, one of the big sort of annoyances in my life generally is that Rockwiz used to air on SBS in Australia. The previous 14 seasons all on SBS. The last season of Rockwiz was right before I started working at SBS, and there was never another season of it at SBS during the entire time I was there. And that pissed me off beyond belief.
I can imagine it would. I was about to say that one of my concerns is that this is just another little bit of IP being regurgitated to make for modern content. Is that Barnesy, God bless him, love Barnesy, grew up with Barnesy, but he is a very safe entry point for a show that used to really pride itself on tapping into the Triple J crowd, trying to get the latest, newest, more interesting young performer on. And I don't know if the Fox Empire are going to allow that to happen. So I'm really concerned that it's half an hour. Love Julia Zamira, of course, so always happy to see her on television. But this is a perplexing conundrum for me, the new version of Rockwiz.
Yeah. In fact, I'd almost have preferred if they did, because obviously it's half an hour for a budget reason. So I think it's 10 episodes for this season coming through, stripped down to half an hour, which, I mean, this can't be a high budget program to be producing at the best of times. Like, it's pretty stripped back. But ultimately, I don't understand why they've gone half an hour. Just do like 5 hour longs if that's really what your issue is. It'd be a much better program for it. But anyway, it's good to see it back. It just doesn't quite hit the target you'd want. Now, let's move on to Party Down, which is a show which has greater difficulty getting back to the screen than Rockwiz does. So Rockwiz, it's just a matter of bringing the hosts out from the cupboards they've been sitting in for the last 5 or 6 years. I presume that's how TV works. Is that right? Yeah. Party Down's got a few more struggles involved, which is that it's not just reviving a set and, a couple of presenters. What this is actually continuing the narrative of Party Down. Now, if you've never seen this program before, it's set in Los Angeles. It's about some wannabe actors and writers who are working for a catering company. So the show really, it's a comedy, but it does have like this sort of sad tone to the program generally, because you got all these people who are wannabe, they're aspiring actors, but they can never really quite make it in Hollywood. And anytime they have like the chance, the glimmer of a little bit of success, something always kind of gets in the way and it doesn't really quite like pan out for them. But it only ran for 2 seasons, and the second season ended with this really hopeful note where your main character in it, this guy Henry, played by Adam Scott, he, after 2 seasons of being fairly depressed because he was an actor who had like a fair bit of heat behind him at one point, but did a terrible TV ad. I think it was a beer commercial from memory. And the slogan of the beer commercial was, "Are we having fun yet?" And so he became known as the "Are we having fun yet" guy, and it kind of derailed his career. And so he's kind of tortured by that through the first few seasons of the program. But in the final episode of the show, which wasn't supposed to be the final episode of the series, it just got cancelled. Interestingly, it got cancelled because ratings for the program were never particularly high, but I believe that final episode had no more than 5,000 people watching it nationally.
Oh my God.
Might have been 8,000, but it was incredibly low. But anyway, stars, I think, were justified in the cancellation of the program, but it hurts because it was such a great TV comedy.
Yeah.
But anyway, the final episode ends with him going on an audition again. So it's like this, it's not necessarily him achieving success, but it's about him really actually going out there and putting himself back out in the world. And so it ends on a hopeful note. Now they're reviving this program over a decade later, and immediately I just got really concerned about it because the premise of this program, and the only way that it holds together, is that you got all these wannabe actors and writers who were aspiring to make it, who suddenly 10 years later are still working for the same catering company. Like, that's really sad because it means that the overall sadness of these people early in their careers not making it is compounded even more when they're in their 40s and older, still not having made it. Okay, so like that's, difficult to sort of contend with. So you've got that aspect of things, but also the lack of I couldn't wrap my mind around the idea that these characters would still be working for this company specifically. I appreciate a catering company is often a job that you find a lot of actors and other creatives in Hollywood doing, because it's flexible. You can work, whatever hours you want. If you can't do a shift, then someone else can fill on the crew. And then also, like, it's sort of working usually just on weekends, and you can do auditions during the day. Like, there's lots of reasons you take on a job like this. But why would you keep working for this company? Because it's an awful, awful, awful company to work for. It's absolutely the sort of thing that you can, like, just cop doing for a year or two, and then you just find some sort of other terrible job to keep you going forward. I don't understand why any of these characters would still be there. Now, as the season 3 opener happens, you find that a couple of the characters are still there, okay? But the others are brought in through circumstances that are unrelated to their working there. But we do know from having seen the trailer that Adam Scott will be back working for the company. And that's just incredibly sad. I don't understand why he would. And it was just a bit of a struggle to get past the reality of these characters coming back after 10 years. Now, if the show had the sort of pretense of it being a bit like The Simpsons, where you just kind of have to put the reality of it aside and just appreciate that these are characters and it's just a comedy engine for the jokes and the characters just keep on doing what they're doing, you could make excuses for it. But there was this narrative that was really threaded through the first 2 seasons of the show that made it feel propulsive. And it wasn't just an engine for comedy. We were actually invested in these characters and where they're going. That's what makes this one just a little bit hard to get into. There's a couple of additions in this final season, in this new season. Hopefully it's not a final. I'd like to see it keep on going. Jennifer Garner's now in there for some reason. I don't quite understand, but that'll play out over the next couple of episodes. And then there's a couple of other newbies that have joined the crew. And so it's, there's certainly some new voices in there, a couple of new faces, and that's appreciated. But yeah, there's something just weird about coming back to Party Down after all this time, considering the overall conceit and framework of the program.
Very fond of those initial couple of seasons. I was part of that early wave who loved the first incarnation of Party Down, had a lot of laughs watching it. Very concerned that Lizzie Kaplan is not part of the mix in this remake. She was integral to sort of being the bringing everyone down to earth and putting everyone in their place sort of character that's crucial to a lot of these sort of comedies of the first one. I thought, and without having seen any of the new season, I thought maybe Jennifer Garner will play that role. I don't know if that eventuated, but Lizzie Kaplan apparently held out for money, also is doing time on the Fleischman show, so maybe not available. But yeah, it's a bit tough to say it's a full cast revival without her, I think.
Yeah, look, in a lot of the interviews that have happened in the lead-ups to the program, everyone's been very specific in saying that it wasn't a money issue for Lizzie Kaplan, it was just purely timing. They had a certain window they were able to get the show happening. So Adam Scott's also the star of Severance on Apple TV Plus in order to be able to do the program, because Adam Scott really is the most essential character in the program. Without him, you don't really have a show to hang it off. So unless you could do it in his Severance, like, off-time window, like, the show just wasn't going to happen, and Lizzie Kaplan couldn't do that. So it's a bit of a shame not to have her there, but at the same time, the rationale they give for her not being there is actually really quite welcome and does speak to what you'd kind of want to hope for this program, that these characters aren't actually still working for Party Down in 2023.
Okay. All right, so it's on the Stan Network, happening as we speak. Did get some butchering reviews coming out of the US. I read a couple of the trades that said it was a major misfire, but I mean, I like this crew, so I'll probably go and have a look at it at some point.
Yeah, it was a bit weird. All the reviews right at the beginning were super negative, but as it got closer to the broadcast date, there started to be quite a few more positive reviews come out. So it's kind of a little bit middling, and having seen the first episode, I kind of understand why. But anyway, Simon, the movie event of our lives, shall we discuss?
Medic! Oh, Jesus. What is that?
Beth, we should go.
Millions of dollars worth of cocaine fell from the sky this morning in Knoxville, Tennessee.
There's more of this out there. They dumped it somewhere.
I'm looking for my daughter.
Forest is a dangerous place.
Hey, Henry, check it out. Something got into it. A deer, maybe.
A lot of cocaine was lost. I need you to go and get it.
Okay, Simon, Cocaine Bear.
That
Can I
was-
just read out a tweet that I posted as soon as I saw the movie?
Sure.
Okay, so look, when I was going into the movie, the big question is this movie going to be any good? And I didn't want to answer that for people with a tweet coming out, but I wanted to post a bit of an FAQ for people. So I posted my Cocaine Bear FAQ, and this is my questions. Does the bear do cocaine? Answer, yes, she does. Does the bear do a lot of cocaine? Hell yeah, she does.
Yeah, she sure does. Oh, look, it's a movie that promises, just in the title alone, to be a rollicking good time. But a few years back, Snakes on a Plane promised that as well, and it turned out to be crap. So does Cocaine Bear go beyond its title? I would say mostly yes. I think it doesn't quite lean into the utter insanity that it could inspire, and for me, that was a little bit of disappointed. It seemed like a lot of good little moments that somehow didn't quite find a tonal sort of altogether-ness. But within those small moments, there's a lot of fun to be had. The bear, it's been widely spoken of that this was based on a real-life incident. The real-life incident was nowhere near as funny. The bear ate a couple of bags of cocaine and almost died straight away from overdosing. Here in this one, the bear becomes instantly addicted to the powder, and wherever it can sniff it out, it goes crazy for it. The undoing of Jesse Tyler Ferguson at one point is very, very funny, albeit quite gory. And it's gory in a very polished studio kind of way. So don't worry, you're not going to see too much. You're not going to see sort of the comedy version of that scene from The Revenant. This is very much a funny kind of adventure story with some wacky comedy thrown in. I would also almost say there's too many characters. Director Elizabeth Banks kind of loses a bit of focus and a bit of pacing by trying to keep up with all the characters going on. At the center of it, I guess you'd say, is Kerry Russell, who's trying to find her daughter. She's sort of the more serious heart and soul of the film. Then you've got the broader comedy stuff. Alden Ehrenreich as the sort of offsider, trying to track down the bear and the cocaine for his father, played by the late Ray Liotta, and I think his final film appearance. What a way for him to go out. And then Margot Martindale is the park ranger, and Jesse Tyler Ferguson, as mentioned. And the terrific young actor whose name I didn't write down, who has some of the funniest moments, is young Henry. He gets to play a lot of the comedy as well. So the only other thing you really have to discuss is, do you believe that this is, does the CGI work for the bear to make it as real as possible? And yes, it does. It looks like a coked up bear going mad, butchering people, and that's where the fun is to be had. So Cocaine Bear is, I hope you enjoyed it, because I had a good time. I didn't think it was a particularly great movie, but I didn't think it particularly had to be a great movie to make all the bits work in it. And that seems to be the general opinion.
Yeah, look, this is the sort of film where I think that if you go along with some mates and have a couple of beers beforehand and a couple of beers afterwards, you can have a great time. Also, I'd suggest take a couple of beers in as well. It's a really great sort of Friday night, hang out with your mates sort of a film. The special effects for the bear, I think, are perfectly good on the big screen. I do reckon that as soon as you start watching it at home, they'll look a little bit creakier than they do on the screen. Like, it's just kind of the way that special effects work. It just never quite translates that home experience. I do think they get the bear to do a whole lot of things in CGI, which you'd never have been able to get Bart the bear to do back in the day. So kind of nice to see this happen. It's kind of weird that all the reviews for this film seem to harken back to just try to bring Snakes on a Plane into it, but no one discusses Bart the bear, which, massive oversight, I think, from the film critical community. Cast in this one, I think, is a lot of fun for the sort of film that it is. Margot Martindale, particularly, I think, is outrageously hilarious as a park ranger. You got Isaiah Whitlock Jr., who people would know maybe by seeing the name on the credits, but absolutely know his face and know him from The Wire as the guy who just sort of says, shit, a fair bit. And he brings that energy to this role, which I think is fantastic. Kerry Russell, I can't believe she's still doing movies like this at this stage of her career. But, she's perfectly fine in a sort of, for what she's being asked to do in it, but she doesn't really deliver as much as everyone else does throughout the production.
Yeah, she doesn't go
Interestingly,
the full comedy in this one. I said, let me just say, I said about Kerry Russell, I said that if movie stars, and I remember saying this to Fiona when we saw the trailer for it, that if movie stars were still a thing, I think Kerry Russell would fill that space that sort of a Sally Field or a Deborah Winger did. She's really likable and really lovable on screen, but she's got this great range where she can sort of play across the board. So I like Kerry Russell a lot, and I'd like to see her do more lead performances.
Yeah. Of course, that's Simon's bias as a movie guy, just ignoring the fact that she was the lead of The Americans for, quite a bunch of seasons. And I mention that because Matthew Rhys, who was a co-star in The Americans, also in this film inexplicably, which, I don't know how intentional that was or not. But you've also got a whole bunch of people in this one who are up-and-comers that, really actually sort of steal the movie. So there's one guy particularly played by... I think it's Aaron Holiday, and he's I would say somewhat quirky teenager who kind of gets wrapped up in things at the beginning.
And we're back.
Yeah, a disruption to our technology can mean only one thing: invasion.
You heard it here first, folks. So, yeah, sorry, I just finished my Kerry Russell rant. What were you saying?
Look, I was also talking. I have no idea how much of... we use this platform called Riverside, and has all of that uploaded or not? Who knows? Have we lost the entire recording to date? Maybe. Who can say?
Oh, wow.
Who can say for sure? Yeah. Anyway.
Who can say for sure? Anyway, let's push on through. I'm still recording at this end, so I've got 37 minutes of it here, so that should work.
All I was going to say is that, sure, Kerry Russell's in this, and you're saying that, it'd be good to get her as a lead, but also she's been the lead of The Americans for the last couple of years. Like, she's been putting in some very good work there.
Sure, yeah.
And just noteworthy with The Americans as well is that her co-star, Matthew Rhys, is also one of the supporting actors in this. One could call it cameo.
Great pre-credit sequences. Yeah, it was a lot of fun. So after Cocaine Bear is in cinemas everywhere. I think it'll probably move to the small screen pretty quickly, unless it's one of those massive breakout hits that sort of catches everyone by surprise. Could it do that? Is it that sort of movie? Because it does have some pretty gruesome moments.
Look, I think this is a film that's going to do a lot better at the box office than the initial expectations were. Like, not wildly better. It's certainly not doing Ant-Man 3 numbers by any means, but I think that, if they're predicting like a $20-30 million take for the opening weekend, it'll do like maybe $5 million on top of that. Like, it's going to do okay. And I think word of mouth is going to be pretty good. But yeah, it really just depends on what is happening in the world over the next few weeks, because, it's going to be outside influence that dictates how well this film does.
And I just want to say very quickly, as part of our What Else Have You Been Watching segment, I did check out the Best Oscar nominee documentary Fire of Love on the Disney Plus platform. It tells the story of Marta and Maurice Kraft, two French volcanologists who are very much in love and travel the world, going to all the wildest volcano sites around the world. It is entirely comprised of their archival footage, stuff that they've shot, their writings, their photographs, and narrated with such a beautiful voice by actress and writer herself, Miranda July. I think this is going to win the Best Documentary Award. It's a stunning piece of documentary filmmaking that captures their lives, their loves, their adventures in a really vibrant and ultimately tragic, but as they say in the film, it's the way they would have wanted to go kind of fashion. So, yeah, it's on Disney Plus and well worth seeing.
Okay, now, Simon, we're going to do this one a little bit quickly just because, we talked about the bear for a little bit. Top 5, each of us have written down, sorry, this is the middle bit. I don't think I expressly stated that. Okay, so in the middle of it this week, we thought we'd take a look at the films that we're super excited to see come out through the rest of this year. So each of us have picked a list of 5 films. Okay, there may be some double ups, there may not be. We'll see how this plays out. And so I reckon, Simon, we'll go one by one and we'll give a bit of a list. And if you want to go from your most anticipated movie of this year through to, your 5th most anticipated film this year, and we'll go that way.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. Now, I did a little bit of searching with this one. I was kind of keen to get a good cross-section of what's going down. My most anticipated, in no particular order, but I will go with the one I'm most excited about. Look, I wasn't going to go big on the studio sequel kind of thing, but I am most excited about Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1. It is the latest of the Mission Impossible franchise. Tom Cruise in his first role since Top Gun Maverick. All the cast are returning. Rebecca Ferguson, Simon Pegg, Ving Rhames. It's probably been a couple of years since they filmed it, and they had a lot of problem bringing it all together, but it looks amazing. And if there's one big, dumb summer American movie I'm looking forward to, it's Mission Impossible, which I think is my favorite franchise at the moment. So that I'll lead off with that one.
Yeah, look, so my list is primarily sort of IP-driven stuff with one or a terrorist thing. And I think for a list like this, it's a bit hard to, unless there's trailers out and about, like these are the films that you get excited about in advance, even if these aren't necessarily the films that you walk away at the end of the year saying that was the best time that you had at the cinema. So I'm going to have a lot of IP stuff in my list here. And the thing that I'm looking forward to most is a film called Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1.
Really? We did not prepare this. We had no idea of your 5 and my 5. So to come out like that, boy, 2 white guys running a podcast. What could go wrong? All right,
exactly.
Mission Impossible.
But like this is the thing, like the Mission Impossible movies, ever since Mission Impossible 3 with Kerry Russell in the opening sequence, let's not forget that. Look, I've been a big fan of this franchise. Like I like the first film fine. The second one's as awful as the reputation really holds out for it. But the third one was a bit of it wasn't quite a return to form, but certainly did a lot of things in the best possible ways, especially with Philip Seymour Hoffman as the villain of that thing. But just film upon film, it just keeps on growing and improving and becoming just so much more watchable and exciting. And they just keep on stepping it up every time. And yeah, like there's no more exciting and fun time at the movies right now than seeing a Mission Impossible film. So yeah, I'm super keen on this one.
Good. Mr. Cruise needs all the help he can get to get his career back on track. So let's get behind Mission Impossible, everyone. He needs your dollars. I'm going to say my next most excited one, and this is a bit of a gamble because the director is someone who can be incredibly exciting and, create some of the best movies I've seen over the last few years, and he cannot be. The movie is called Asteroid City. This is the new film from Wes Anderson. It stars Jason Schwartzman, Scarlett Johansson, Tilda Swinton, Tom Hanks, Jeffrey Wright. So, as well as a lot of the Wes Anderson crew from past movies. Ed Norton's in there, Adrian Brody. It's got Steve Carell and Margot Robbie. So this has got a huge Wes Anderson-like cast. It's a period comedy set in 1955 about the students and parents at a junior stargazer convention. And that's pretty much all we know about the film so far. But when Wes Anderson gets it right, like Grand Budapest Hotel or what's another one of his that I absolutely love? Moonrise Kingdom I loved, all the way back to Bottle Rocket. He can get it right. When he doesn't get it right, like the Darjeeling Limited, I can get a bit poopy with him. But Asteroid City by Wes Anderson is one I'm always super keen to see. Yes. Dan's frozen again. This podcast may not see the light of day. You there, Dan? Oh, no. So we stretch waiting for Dan to rejoin us. Hi, I'm Simon Foster. The films we've mentioned so far are Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning twice, and my second film was Asteroid City. I don't think any of the trailers are available. Well, the trailer for Mission Impossible is available. And Asteroid City is still a bit of a long shot. Just waiting for Dan to rejoin the podcast. Tech City. What have you been watching? Tell us at the screenwatchingpodcast@gmail email address, gmail.com address, screenwatchingpodcast@gmail.com, where you can send all your questions and thoughts about what's been watching. Is Dan back? Dan's back.
I'm back. I have no idea if any of this is saved for the podcast, but whatever. Simon Foster, number 2 on my list of things that I'm super excited by this year, is a film by a emerging filmmaker named Wes Anderson called Asteroid City.
No way, you're lying.
It's right here on my spreadsheet.
Really?
Yeah.
Diverse opinion here on your Screen Watching podcast. All right, let's hear about it.
I mean, pretty much everything you said, except I'd sort of say I'm probably a little bit more of a Wes Anderson fan than you are, just generally. The only film I haven't really sort of been super keen on was the, oh gosh, I can't even think of the name of it. It's the one that sort of brought Ed Norton into the fold of his recurring players. It was the film with the 2 kids that decide to go missing. You know, they run away.
Moonrise Kingdom.
Moonrise Kingdom, yeah. Not a big fan of that one. But the rest of them, I'm, generally pretty keen on. But yeah, Simon, I'm curious to see what your number 3 is going to be, because I know we're going to have a bit of crossover, but I think I've got 2 films here that it won't.
I can almost guarantee this is not going to be a crossover of yours. Netflix have commissioned the latest Zack Snyder film. It's called Rebel Moon. It stars Charlie Hunnam, Sophia Boutella, Carrie Elwes, the great Corey Stoll, the great Jenna Malone. Zack Snyder seems to have a little bit of an in on the money that Netflix are offering up. The story centers on a peaceful colony who, threatened by a tyrant, sent a young woman to neighboring planets to recruit an army. It's apparently going to get a limited theatrical release before it heads to Netflix late in the year. I think they've got slotted as one of their big December titles. I know you and I differ on Mr. Snyder, but I think a sci-fi adventure under his eye, given the money that Netflix offers, could be pretty spectacular stuff. So I'm going to say Rebel Moon at number 3.
Yeah, well, he has made one legitimately good movie, and then the rest, I got their moments. Okay, so that's absolutely not on my list. So I'm going to drop in a film which I thought would be on your list, but, we'll see. It's a film directed by James Mangold called Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny. Now, after that 4th Indiana Jones film, I was kind of done with this as a franchise. I didn't really need to see more. But then I saw the trailer for this, and it just looks like a whole bunch of fun. Indiana Jones is back. I'm there for another rollicking adventure.
Okay, didn't make my 5. I know Mangold's a fine director, and of course I'll see this because I'm a Harrison Ford fan. But yeah, I'm looking for slightly more left to center, slightly more sort of non-franchisey kind of things at the moment. My 4th.
It's just what I'm excited by, Simon. I can't. The heart wants what the heart wants.
So for me, the director at the moment who I have to see everything he does because he does everything with a very unique perspective is Ari Aster. He did Midsummer. He did Hereditary. Now, I didn't like Hereditary, but I loved the energy and the look and the feel of the film. Beau is Afraid is the new film from the director. It stars Joaquin Phoenix and Amy Ryan and a great support cast as well. It's out not far away, April 21. It's described in the trailer is very weird as an epic odyssey of a man trying to get home to his mother. And bold and ingeniously depraved is one of the quotes being thrown around about this film. Joaquin Phoenix can do some crazy things that we've seen. Pairing him with Ari Aster, I think, is a very exciting prospect. So it's called Beau is Afraid. An extended trailer for that is available to see online. I might put it up on our Facebook page to have a look at. But it's in cinemas April 21.
Yeah, I really like Midsummer, so this is something I'm quite keen to see. I didn't see Hereditary, though, so I probably need to correct that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. On my list here, I've got a film from a director who, look, there's certainly very hit or miss with a lot of his career, and I'd probably err on saying that most of it's miss. That's got me a little apprehensive, but I kind of want to see what's happening here. David Gordon Green, he's directing a new version of The Exorcist, which promises to continue the film series on from the first film while jettisoning all the other Exorcist films that followed. And I'm just kind of curious to see the execution of this one. It's got Ann Dowd in it, Ellen Burstyn is returning, and Leslie Odom Jr. is there in the lead. So, it's an interesting project. I don't know really what I feel about it just yet, but I'm certainly very interested to see it.
I liked his early indie stuff. I think he derailed the Halloween series with his version. So I looked at this, and I'm certainly a huge Exorcist fan, so I'm going to be probably checking it out, but didn't make my top 5. My 5th film is a bit of a left field one. A French actress. Yeah.
Did I ever tell you about the time I went to the Exorcist steps in Washington?
I think you may have. Something creepy happened, didn't it?
No, I just walked up some steps and down them again, but, there were no priests. It was all fine. True
boring story.
Yeah.
Melanie Laurent is a director and actress who I'm quite excited by. She has made a film. It's been in the can for a while called The Nightingale, not related to the Aussie film from a few years back. It's based on a 2015 bestseller. It stars 2 of my favorite young actresses, sisters Elle and Dakota Fanning. It's set in World War II. They play some French resistance fighters. It has been delayed a few times. It hasn't got a set date in 2023, but it'll probably roll out at some point this year. So just a good World War II adventure story with 2 great young actresses, directed by a lady who I find immensely talented. You can see my interview with her on our YouTube channel. She did what was that Amazon thing she did earlier this year or late last year? It's called The Nightingale, and it hopefully will be in cinemas this year.
Yeah, the final thing on my list is a animated movie. It's called the Super Mario Brothers movie. And look, I was fairly apprehensive, and then I saw the trailer for it, and I'm like, this is everything I've always wanted to see in my life.
Okay, if you say so. I'm fine. I mean, based upon what you said, you're going after the IP property, and you're keen to sort of see this on the big screen. That's fine.
Here's the thing, Simon. As a kid, I grew up as a Nintendo kid, and it's never left me. I've, just had such an affinity to Mario. Mario entered my life as an 8-year-old kid, and I've never been able to say goodbye. So here I am, older than 8 years old, and there's an opportunity to see a Super Mario Brothers movie that has the promise of being good, as opposed to the movie I saw as a 10-year-old, and here we are.
So that was to be the 10 most anticipated films of 2023. In fact, it was 8 because we got 2 exactly the same, but they're still worthy of your attention. Let's move on very quickly to In History this week. Dan Barrett, I think I'm going to stump you with some of these. February 25, 1971, a new weekly police drama from Crawford Production starts a 5-year run on the network 010, as it was called back then. What was the show called?
Okay, so I feel that I know this one, even though I've actually got no context for the series whatsoever, but I'm pretty certain this one's Matlock Police.
Beautifully done. It was called Matlock Police. February 26, 1960, the beautiful Vera Miles stars in Mirror Image, one of the most iconic episodes of which CBS series?
Look, this I feel very confident in saying is The Twilight Zone.
Wow, you are on fire today. March 1, 1979. It was known as C Day for Australian television. What happened on this day in 1975?
Look, I know that I use the C word a fair bit, but when I use the C word, I'm not using the word colour.
You are on fire. If you know this 4th one, it could be a perfect run for you.
Okay, what do we got?
March 4, 1985. Seven's affiliation, Network 7 here in Australia, affiliation with NBC and CEN allowed them to broadcast a nightly 6-hour package of news and current affairs direct by satellite. What was that 6 hours of news called?
Oh, I've got no idea. I'm just going to say it's called like Overnights.
It was called, and I've closed down my answer sheet. Let me open that up again. It was called...
Tony Barber and Glenn Ridge would never have done this.
It was called News Overnight. There we go.
Okay, that's close.
Yeah, it was. You did good. You did good. I'm almost inclined to give you that last one. Where's our birthday sting?
Let's not play it.
No sting, no problems. Okay, yeah, it's been a wild day. Okay, what do these birthday buddies have in common? February 26, 1986, the lovely Teresa Palmer. February 27, 1932, Elizabeth Taylor. February 27, 1940, Bill Hunter. And February 3rd, 1982, Jessica Biel. Now, The clue is that they've all sort of had a certain type of co-star or starred in a certain type of movie which had this thing at the center of it. Can you guess what it is?
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
Was Bill Hunter in Far Lap?
Not to my knowledge, but you are very close. He was in another.
I'm pretty sure they were all in
similarly
horse
associated-
movies of some description, but I can't work out what the Bill Hunter movie was.
You are. Can you remember what the Jessica Biel one was?
No, but I kind of know the cover for it. I know that she'd been in a horsey film, and then Elizabeth Taylor's obviously been in a horsey film.
Teresa Palmer played Michelle Payne, the first female jockey to win the Melbourne Cup in Ride Like a Girl. Elizabeth Taylor, of course, became a child superstar with National Velvet. Bill Hunter, he co-starred as trainer Bart Cummings in 2011's The Cup.
Okay.
And he's the one that's going to throw people. Jessica Biel, she voiced the character of Jessica Biel in 5 episodes of BoJack Horseman.
Of course she did.
I stretched for that last one, but I had to. It's not easy doing these quizzes, you know. Anyway, that's the end of this wildly erratic podcast. Let's see if it actually makes it to air.
Yeah, let's see. I'm incredibly skeptical, but I can see 59%'s uploaded, so it's uploading something. Simon Foster, I think we're at the end of the podcast. Is that correct?
Yeah, we're all done for the day.
Okay, then let's get out of here. Folks, this has been Screen Watching. Thanks for listening. If you like this podcast, I'd usually give a plug for myself. Alwaysbewatching.com. It's a newsletter, sign up. Simon, you do plugs. You've got like a film festival thing that you're doing right now.
Yeah, it's happening in Melbourne, the Melbourne Science Fiction Film Festival. We've got some movies right through today, it being Saturday. We had a couple of good movies last night that had some good crowds turn out, and closing on Sunday night with a South African film called Wiesens. Read my words at Screen-Space. There's a whole lot of Facebook happening on the internet, a whole lot of screen watching happening on the internet, at Screen Watching Podcast on Facebook, at Screen_watching, I think, on YouTube. The Twitter page. It's all going crazy this week. So check out us where you can.
It's a madhouse. Simon Foster, it's been a pleasure. We'll be back next week with more of the watching of the screens and podcasting about it. Bye.
Bye.